Hello and welcome along. So this time we're going to talk about the best Primarch bodyguard of the heresy and pre-heresy era. So this is a follow-up to the video I did on the worst bodyguard of the Primarchs, which was the Devourers of the World Eaters. So the flip side of that is the best, obviously. And now, who could it be? Well, you already know it's the Sanguinary Guard. So the Blood Angels Sanguinary Guard are my candidate for the best bodyguard of the Primarchs because, well, for a number of reasons. So let's start with why the Sanguinary Guard are so good. Because they do both roles of what the Primarch's bodyguards were supposed to do really well. So one, they have to act as essentially a prestige booster, an honor guard who make you look good. So they follow the Primarch around, they look amazing, and they do all the right things, and they boost the prestige of the Primarch. They make them seem even more important than they are, which is obviously for a Primarch they're already very important, but they expand that. That's what the role of an honor guard often is. And it's a role that, to be honest, most of the bodyguards generally perform most of the time because, as we discussed in the worst bodyguard video, the Primarchs don't really need a bodyguard most of the time. So what they are really doing is that honor guard role. And the Sanguinary Guard, because they're incredibly disciplined, devoted, and wear the most incredibly mastercraft, artisan crafted even armor. They carry incredible, the top equipment. They have these special two-handed power swords, the Incarmine blades, which are from the golden age of technology. They have winged jump packs that are artisan crafted, and they have these wrist-mounted bolters. They look the part. They look perfectly fit into the aesthetic of the Blood Angels Legion and to Sanguinius' own aesthetic. They are perfect companions for Sanguinius to go to a big meeting or some sort of negotiation, accompanied by a group of these Sanguinary Guards, and make his presence known and just look incredible. So they fulfill that role perfectly. But on top of that, they're incredibly gifted individual fighters. So they're perfected the art of individual combat to a level that very few people in the Warhammer 40k world have reached. They are on a par really with the Phoenix Guard of Emperor's Children, who for just individual talent and skill as swordsmen essentially. So they are so gifted and so dedicated to perfecting their skills that they've taken it to the very highest level. So within the Legion, there will be very few individuals that could even hope to match them for skill. And even across the legions, the Sanguinary Guard would be right at the very top of the individual skill tier, if you like, of the various Astartes. While with the Phoenix Guard of the Emperor's Children, who are obviously incredibly talented individuals and devoted to perfecting their skill, the Sanguinary Guard do that, but they also are devoted to the role of being a bodyguard, whereas the Phoenix Guard aren't really. They are more that their purpose is to just be the very best they can be as individual combatants, whereas the Sanguinary Guard's purpose is to be the best bodyguards they can be. So they've given up their individual identity, whereas the Phoenix Guard revel in their own identity and being basically they're trying to draw attention onto themselves, trying to boost their own celebrity in a sense within the Legion as being the greatest swordsman, whereas the Sanguinary Guard have given up all their own personal identity and have devoted themselves to protecting the Primarch. And that kind of devotion to the job is not really seen in many of the other bodyguard units. I would say the closest to that is probably the Death Shroud of the Death Guard, who again give up their identity when they take on the role as a member of the bodyguard, and they just devote themselves to that role, to being the best bodyguard they can be. But where the Sanguinary Guard have the edge, I would say, over the Death Shroud is just in a higher level of skill. So they're kind of like the perfect blend of the Phoenix Guard and the Death Shroud into one unit, which is the main reason why I would say they should be considered the best. Now there is another unit that could be you could argue is better in this because of their raw power, which is the Sekhmet of the Thousand Sons, because not only are they highly skilled individual warriors, etc., devoted to their Primarch, they are also very powerful psychers, and as a unit they can combine their psychic abilities as well to get the very best out of all of their psychic powers, which makes them on a one-for-one, well, say a unit-to-unit basis, they are probably the most powerful unit. Well, they definitely are, to be honest. But there's the problem with any of these arguments. Whenever you bring the Thousand Sons in, you just got, well, yeah, but they're even better because they've got all those psychic powers as well. It's like, yeah, okay. So, but if we take away the Thousand Sons, then it's definitely the Sanguinary Guard, in my opinion, the number one. And even if you include the Sekhmet, you can make the argument that, well, yes, the Sekhmet are very powerful. They aren't as dedicated to being bodyguards like the Sanguinary Guard or the Deshret for that matter. So their primary purpose isn't to be Magnus's bodyguard. They just are, in a sense, that because they're the elite of the elite in the Legion. Whereas the Sanguinary Guard, that's their purpose. That's what they exist for, to protect the Primarch. And so I think that's why, again, I give them the edge as the best bodyguard unit of the Primarchs. Now, of course, there's another unit of people in the 40k universe who have really perfected the role of bodyguard, which is the Custodians. Now, they're like the gold standard of what it is to be a bodyguard in the 40k universe, but obviously they're not Astartes, so they have an unfair advantage. So we're not including them because they don't guard the Primarch. If there's one unit of the Primarchs that comes closest to being like the Custodians are for the Emperor, then it would probably be the Sanguinary Guard. So another reason I think the Sanguinary Guard have an edge over the other units of bodyguards is because I think Sanguinius takes more of a personal interest in them than other Primarchs do in their own bodyguard units. A lot of bodyguard units, they're just kind of there, but they're probably the best in their legion in terms of that they've been picked out as good as warriors of veterans who've served a long time, shown their dedication, be given the position, and they do a job. They do it very well. But the Sanguinary Guard are kind of they're like a personal project for Sanguinius. He really cares about them individually and wants to make them the best they can be. And I think a good example of this is Ascalon, I think I'm pronouncing that properly, is the founder and leader of the Sanguinary Guard during the Horus Heresy period and leading up to it. So he is an exceptionally skillful individual, but he has a flaw that Sanguinius notices, and he notices that basically he's too focused on not losing. So as a bodyguard, he wants to protect the person he's guarding, in this case Sanguinius. So he has this kind of slight worry that if he loses, then he's failed. So he doesn't want to risk losing. So he tends to fight to not lose rather than to fight to win. And so Sanguinius notices this, and he wants to make him even better. So he basically gets him to duel with other people until he can kind of lose this problem. And even one of the people he duels, and probably the one that actually solves this issue, is Lucius of the Emperor's Children. Now this is a time when Lucius has kind of got recognition amongst the legions as being one of the very, very most dangerous individuals, an excellent swordsman. So he's right up there as one of the very, very best you can fight. Ascalon can kind of match him for skill, but he can't beat him without taking a risk, and that's the point he wants. So Sanguinius wants him to have to risk getting injured or losing to get the win, and eventually that's what he does. And so he learns his lesson by having to fight an opponent where he could only win if he takes the risk to win, which then makes him a better bodyguard. And that's what Sanguinius has wanted. He's trying to develop them all the time. He does it with other members of the Legion as well, but like high-level commanders and so on. But he's not just happy enough to settle for, like, okay, these are the best people in the Legion for this role, let's give them the job and leave them to it. He's always thinking. He's thinking about what they're doing, how they can be improved. And you just don't get that from other Primarchs. They just don't do that, generally speaking. So I think when you bring all those things together, you've got the Sanguinary Guard have to be the number one candidate for being the best bodyguard unit. If I've missed someone out, who do you think, what unit would be better than the Sanguinary Guard? I would say, remember, we're talking about the specific role of bodyguards. And so let me know in the comments, like, share, subscribe, and I will See you next time.